So, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. It's a full house today. We're swamped full of people. Some quick announcements. GCT is very excited to let you know that we were awarded an enhancement grant from Arts Memphis, which is great. And that means we get to do an upgrade to our lights. So we're very excited about that. The sticker is that Arts Memphis requires that we raise a match. So we must raise $4,000 to match money that's given to us from Arts Memphis. I'm really, really excited to share with you that we are halfway there. We have $2,000 in hand. We need only $2,000 more to reach our match. So I'm looking to all of you at home, all of you here in the house today, every one of you, to help us make a donation and go towards our enhancement grant. One other thing, our new season has been announced, and we are very excited about the upcoming season. Please check out our Facebook page, visit our web page. Everything is there. Go look, make your plans to come to all 9 shows of next season. Make plans to buy your memberships, which will go on sale a week from today. Thanks so much. So let me have a seat, and we're going to get started. It gives me really great pleasure to introduce to you John Maness, our director for All My Sons. And as an introduction for John, he received his MFA from Indiana University, has gone on to direct numerous notable productions, such as Big Love and Metamorphosis, Twelfth Night, Best of Enemies at Circuit Playhouse, and the world premieres productions of We Live Here and Mad Honey. Additionally, John is an accomplished actor, performing regionally in Grace at Circuit, Almost Maine at Theater Works, and in Claiborne Park at Playhouse on the Square. He's done many, many other things as an actor, and I won't steal any more of his thunder with that. But John, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So John, just for starters, tell us about you and what makes you tick.
What makes me tick? Well, theater is one of those things that, as we sort of all do, kind of fall into at some point. You know, when I was in junior high, I got cast in a production of Everyman, which is a medieval drama. Which is not usually something you do in junior high, but I had a very progressive art teacher at the time, and that's kind of when the bug hit, and I continued that through high school, majored in, got my Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Memphis, went and got a Master of Fine Arts in Directing from Indiana University, and was fortunate enough to spend a good 15 years of my professional life making a living as a director and an actor. So, and of course now I teach as well, but I still get to keep my feet in both worlds. So I'm always, looking for interesting and challenging pieces of theater. And, I'll go through different periods where certain things pique my interest. Like, when I was in grad school, I felt, I need a focus. And my focus was, what is it that theater does that's so unique, that is so different from, like, say, movies, that I began to look for more theatrical type of plays rather than sort of straight up naturalism or realism. And I explored that for a while, and here I am coming full circle to one of the great American realistic plays of the 20th century. So, I like all types of theater, all genres of theater, and really it's the puzzle aspect of it, I think, that getting in the rehearsal process and working with the actors and trying to figure out what is underneath the hood of the play that really kind of makes me tick, I guess.
So John, you said that you're a teacher, an actor, a director. Which of those things is your favorite to do? Do you like to act more or direct more? Or?
Depends on what time you ask me, actually. All three have their rewards. As a teacher and an educator, you get to kind of mold people, and the reward you get from just seeing them get it. Whether it's a great piece of literature or an understanding of Shakespeare when they didn't think they understood it before, or some sort of artistic awakening that they have, and that it's really fulfilling to sort of be a part of that. Like I said, as a director, kind of getting into the play and working with the actors and trying to help them figure out what it is that makes these characters work, and why we're telling the story and why it's important. And I guess I should say, as far as directing goes, that my personal philosophy is maybe a little different from other people's, in that I think the director is a facilitator. You know, it's a job that is, as far as the grand millennia long history of theater that we've had, multi-millennia, I guess. The director sometimes come about fairly recently. So I just believe that theater is the actor's medium, and the director's there to make the environment as pristine and clean and comfortable, and prepare it for the actors to do their thing, and facilitate that for them. So I think the director is really secondary in a lot of ways to the acting. Of course, acting is acting. It's so fulfilling to be on stage, get to perform a character, somebody completely not like you at all, and just really explore the deep recesses of a totally different mind is always exciting.
Okay, so let's dive into this show. So we're here to talk about All My Sons, written by the great Arthur Miller.
That's right.
Will open on March the 6th here at Germantown Community Theater. Tell us about your cast.
Oh gosh. Well, I get to brag a little bit about this cast because there are times when, as a director, you cast a show and the pieces just fall right into place, and you get the cast of your dreams. I was going through and looking at my cast list, which includes, Greg Bowler and Marcus Brown, Pamela Paletti. I mean, some of these names are notable names in Memphis theater, and almost all of them, if not having won an Ostrander, have been nominated for one. So, I mean, this is really an all-star Memphis cast. And, we've been rehearsing. I've been very fortunate to be able to have a lot of time with them to work on this play. We rehearsed about 8 weeks, I think, which is a little longer than normal. But we really wanted to make sure that these characters and this play worked just right. And they have done an amazing job of getting into these characters' heads, doing the table work, committing fully to it. Sometimes, what everyone always asks is, how do you learn all those lines? Well, they have worked their tails off to try and get these lines down as quickly as possible. And they were off book long before we had to make any sort of edict to say you kind of need to learn your lines now. We sort of open tomorrow, but they have just been 100% committed, and of course they all have day jobs too. So this is what they do in their nights. They come here, and we just hammer at it, and I'm really pleased with the work that they've done. I mean, those of you that come see the show, you're in for a real treat with these performers. I mean, there's not a weak link among any of them.
So one of the things that I like to ask our directors, and I know the people in the house tonight love to hear about this, how did you go through the audition process and find and match up these actors to these roles? I mean, tell us how that works for you, because every director is different in that process.
Well, some of it is just gut instinct. Some of it is kind of knowing the characters and what you want out of them. Of course, the first thing you do when you're about to approach a script is you read it, then you read it again, and you read it again. Right about the 10th time you've read through this play, you start to get a real feel for the way these characters should move, behave, and then you kind of hope that maybe there are people out there that sort of match that vision. And it's always important to come in with a plan and then be prepared to ditch that plan as soon as it doesn't work for you. And by and large, I think this cast really kind of lined up with the way I saw these characters from the front end. So, of course, I'm sitting out in the house, and I have them come in and do a cold read, which basically means they've got a copy of the script. Of course, they've had access to it beforehand, and they presumably have read it and have some basic understanding. And what I'm looking for are they going to make some choices on stage? Even if they are completely wrong, at least they've made a choice rather than kind of coming up here and just sort of reading flat off the page. And they all came in, and they just kind of naturally fell into place. It was not, surprisingly, it was not as difficult to cast as I was initially afraid of. I mean, they kind of came in and just, okay, yep. And it was just sort of fell into place. I mean, you almost never get that, and when you do, it's just a gift from the heavens, because it rarely happens when you have such amazing people that just kind of fall right into to the roles they're supposed to play.
So then, moving from that, it gives me a lot of excitement to actually sit up here today. So tell us about the show.
Okay, well, when people think of Arthur Miller, and certainly, my first exposure to Arthur Miller was in high school, and we had to read The Crucible and Death of a Salesman, and those are the two plays that he's most known for. Most people who have heard of Arthur Miller, that's what they associate with him. But All My Sons was the first play that he wrote that got him on the map. Certainly he'd written other plays before, but this was the one that people kind of stood up and took notice. And in my opinion, I think it's his best play. A lot of people argue Death of a Salesman is clearly his masterpiece, but some of the things that he worked out in Death of a Salesman, the themes of fathers and sons, responsibility, the American dream, and questioning what that was, all of that has its roots in this play. I mean, they're almost companion pieces to each other. And, but I guess to me, what appeals to me about All My Sons as opposed to Death of a Salesman is that it's Aristotelian in its kind of structure. The whole thing takes place in about 36 hours, I think, from start to finish. Maybe not even that long, I think. And it starts on a Sunday morning and ends 2 a.m. the next day. And we watch this family, just the things that have, the fragile things that have held it together and the fragile secrets that they have held on to begin to come about. And it falls apart. I mean, it's an American tragedy. And the thing about it is that these are still issues that we kind of deal with even today. Business ethics is something that comes up a lot in this play. I guess I should probably give you sort of a synopsis of what the play's about, right? Sure. Why don't we start there for those of you that aren't familiar? We are sitting in the Kellers' backyard. This play takes place in 1945. The Kellers had 2 sons. The older of the 2 has come home from the war. The younger one is missing in action. And the parents, Joe and Kate, they are holding steadfast to the belief that their son Larry, the one that's missing in action, is still alive somewhere out there. He's just missing in the Pacific somewhere, and he's going to come home. And mixed in with all of this, their son Chris, who has been back for a little while, has been corresponding with Anne, who was Larry's girlfriend before he went off to war. And they've started to become close, and they don't believe that Larry's ever coming back, which of course causes some angst among the family unit. And intermixed with all of this, Anne's father used to be a business partner of Joe, the father of Chris. And they ran a machine factory that created munitions and airplane parts for the troops. And one day, the machine heads that were coming out for the engines came out cracked, and there was some he said, she said as to whose fault it was. But basically, they shipped the cracked heads anyway. They got put into airplanes, and these airplanes crashed and killed 21 pilots. Due to negligence. So one of the things Arthur Miller is kind of asking there is, what is our civic duty? What is our duty? Is it just to our immediate family? Is it to our immediate selves? Or do we have a greater duty to our society, our country, the people we put our trust in? And these are the questions that get brought up throughout. So that was the synopsis. I have no idea where I was going before that.
Because there's so much that happens in this show.
Oh, yes.
And so much that you don't want to give away because the process of unraveling.
That's right.
It's so great.
It's like an onion. I mean, this show, it just has a layer, and you peel back a layer, and you find something else underneath, and something else underneath, until you get to that kernel at the end. And just the ending of this play is so powerful because these people who have hidden for 3 years, telling lies to each other and telling lies to themselves in order to get through the day, when that comes home to roost, you have to deal with it, and they certainly do. So at the end, they are exposed and completely raw to the point where okay, now where do we go from here? What do we do? And
And I hope you would agree that I mean, I certainly think that Arthur Miller, he knew what he was doing when he placed it simply in someone's backyard.
oh yeah, absolutely.
The idea that we are thrust into this backyard, which is where we sit right now, and have to face all of these issues. Because it's not about a massive set. It's not about flashing lights. It's about...
That's right. And that was something that, last night, and I keep bringing it back to my actors because I cannot stress how awesome they are. We were sitting up here rehearsing. We'd doing a run through of the show, and we're still working on the set. The set looks fantastic, but we're still, a couple of details and things we still have to finish up. And they didn't have their costumes yet. We just had the work lights on, and I'm watching them perform. And beyond just all of that, the power of their performance, transcended that. They had an empty space and people out here watching, and that's really all they needed. So when we have these enhancements like this backyard, hopefully what the audience will get is this could be anybody's backyard. This is Americana right here. This, the white fence and the clean porch and the screen door and all of that stuff. This is your home. This is where you live. This is your backyard, and these are your neighbors. These are your friends. These are your family, and we want to really drag you into this. We're doing some interesting things actually with the set. As you can, I don't know if you can see on the camera or not, but we've got grass on the floor, and this is all going to be painted to look like flagstone. We're trying to be as realistic as we possibly can. Like I said, this is one of the great realistic plays of the 20th century. And we're experimenting a little bit with smells. So one of the things we're going to try and do as the audience comes in is have this sort of fresh cut grass smell, roses and flowers and things. So you feel like you're going into someone's backyard rather than just simply walking into a theater and sitting, and watching a show like you would anywhere else. We really want to have a unique environmental experience for the audience. And I'm really excited about some of the things that our designers have come up with for this.
Yeah, and they've done a nice job, and we should probably mention them. Our set design is by Andy Saunders, and our technical director, Justin Asher, and they've done a phenomenal job of really putting it together and bringing things in.
And making it look as realistic as possible. I mean, we haven't put it up yet, but there's one of the pivotal set pieces in the show is this memorial tree that the Kellers have put up when they first found out that Larry had gone missing. And right before the show begins, there had been a windstorm, and the windstorm had knocked the tree over. And the question is, how is Mom going to react to, Larry's memorial? Is she going to take it as, oh no, he's dead, or is she going to take it as, see, he's angry, he's alive somewhere, and he knows we shouldn't have done this. So we're going to have a tree, right here to my left, just sprouted up and cracked and broken over. And so when you walk in, the first thing you see is a tree in the backyard smashed up and leaves all over the place. And so like I said, I mean, the realism, the level of detail that they are going to is above and beyond anything I could have possibly expected. So they have done a yeoman's job.
Yeah, they've really done a fantastic job. So you really sort of talked to us a little about this, but what attracted you to this show? What made you say, I want to direct all my sons at GCT?
I think it's the themes in it and how pure they are in the interaction between the characters. The themes of father and son are huge, especially as a male actor in the world. I was very fortunate that my family was incredibly supportive with me in wanting to go into the arts, but so many of my friends did not have that luxury. It was too sissy for them, or it was I didn't make enough money, or and so it may have caused a rift. People that were more artistically bent. So knowing so many people that have issues with their parents, and the sins of the parents being released onto the children, and having the children having to deal with that, and I think that's just such a powerful statement and a powerful thing to discuss, and something we always need to deal with because it tends to get swept under the rug a lot. And this play really deals with that. At the very beginning, you see Chris and his dad together, and they seem like the best of friends. In fact, Anne has a line where she says, you're the only one that still loves his parents. And he goes, yeah, it kind of went out of fashion, didn't it? And she goes, no, it's a good thing. but it's that sense of familial loyalty that that I really latch on to, because I have that with my family. But then to see that disintegrate, that is just something that would tear me apart. And I think that is one of the things that really attracts me to this type of play, is exploring what that is in a safe environment. Obviously, I don't wish that on myself, but to see that on stage, I think is just fascinating. And for people that have gone through that, I think it can be a cathartic experience to see, in this just sort of standard Americana background, it happens everywhere, and everybody has to deal with it. So, and also, of course, the business ethics side of it, I think that's relevant to today. We've got these car recalls and people putting out vehicles with faulty airbags and things, and people getting hurt and injured. We deal with this today. It's as long as there's capitalism. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with capitalism, but as with any sort of ideology, you have the potential for some form of corruption. It doesn't matter what it is. And especially Arthur Miller, I think, and this kind of got him in trouble a little bit at the time. In 1945, he was a little ahead of his time in questioning those ideals. So many men came back from the war and created the middle class of America on the back of this idea of the American dream. And he questioned that as, okay, well, I think it's great, but let's not go full zealot here. Let's, anything worth doing is worth examining, and that's certainly what he does in most of his plays, but definitely in this one.
So clearly, this is a drama.
Yeah, a little bit.
Are there moments of levity? Are there moments of endearingness?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. They've got the very first scene of the play. We've got right where you're sitting. Joe is just reading the paper. It's a nice, bright Sunday morning. The storm has passed, and while Mom, Kate, sort of believes there's something ominous in the air and coming, the men are just enjoying the day, and they're sitting there smoking their pipes and reading the paper and just kind of talking about the weather. And the neighbor comes in, Frank, and he's kind of an oddball character, and he's incredibly happy and excited, and he likes to go to the movies and talk about all sorts of things, from forestry to astrology to what have you, and he's a very funny, amusing character. So Arthur Miller does a really great job of, just as soon as something starts to flip over the edge, he'll throw something in that will kind of ease the tension a little bit. And it's a bit like, I hesitate to say this because people might get the wrong idea. It's a bit like Greek theater, in the sense that you have this rising tension, and then some character from the outside comes in and eases that tension off, whether it's through comedy or whether it's changing the subject. And I think it's very effective. It gives you a little bit of chance to breathe before the next big rise. It's almost like a roller coaster. You got to have those dips so that you can get all the way up to the top for the fun stuff where you slide back down.
Just like life.
Just like life, exactly like life.
Okay, so I have in my hands
okay.
cards that have the 10 famous questions.
Oh, Lord.
So the first of these, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word.
And you know some good ones.
I do know some good ones. I think my favorite word of all time is sanguinary.
Interesting. We've heard one very similar to that.
Just the sound of it, I like the way it feels in my mouth. It's just and it just means bloody, but it's lovely. It's just elegant.
That's an actor saying that. I like the way it feels in my mouth. What is your least favorite word?
Oh goodness. There's so many that come to mind that would be so controversial to say that I hesitate to say it. Probably, how about least favorite words?
Sure.
I can't.
That's a running theme with our directors. We hear that.
And like I said, as a teacher and educator, when I work with teenagers, they're so worried about the way people perceive them, you know, and when they say I can't, what they mean is I'm afraid. And I go, no, what you mean is you won't. You can. You are choosing not to. And you know, those moments when you can guide them to break through that is just magic.
That's great. What turns you on?
These are getting tougher and tougher. What turns me on? Great art. I know that sounds so cliche for a director, and it doesn't matter what kind of art it is. You know, I can go to see really fantastic modern dance and just be completely moved by it, or a great piece of theater or a great piece of music. I mean, those things I think just sing to the soul. You know, it's those moments when you experience something truly moving. I think is you know, what we sort of live for, and the fact that they're rare, I think, is what makes them beautiful.
So All My Sons is a great example of that.
Absolutely, and it should be for you.
That's right. Perfect. Perfect. Well done. Well done. I'll pay you later.
Okay, thank you. That's the other thing, money. But I'm just kidding.
What turns you off?
Willful ignorance. You know, people who should know better are reasonable, educated, and then out of just stubbornness, a stubborn need to be right, as opposed to you know, conceding the possibility of another idea. I think that's probably the thing that grates on me more than anything else. That when it's clear, it's not even about being right or wrong. It's about accepting another point of view, and the possibility that point of view is equally as valid, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. And I think when people just sort of fall back on you know, arguments that just are fallacies in order to defend their prejudice, I guess, is something that just I find completely repulsive.
Very good. What sound do you love?
You know, I probably sound like a broken record with everything I've said. I'm sure everyone else has said it 100 times before. My daughter is 10, and she lives with her mother, and they happen to live in Canada right now. That's where my ex-wife is currently teaching. So just hearing her voice, you know, when the way she says "daddy" is like no other sound on earth. And you know, all the parents out there, of course, understand that. And you know, to bring it back around to the Arthur Miller thing, I think as I get older, I start to, you know, when I was young, I was like, oh yeah, Chris, I totally understand where he's coming from. He's idealistic, and Joe, although Joe does some repulsive things in the story, I identify with his need to provide for his family and his love of his family. I mean, that is a true thing, and feeling that once you become a parent, you know, the whole world changes. My mother always told me that when we had children, that everything changes then. I was like, that's what everyone says, and it's absolutely true. You know, your whole worldview switches.
So what sound do you hate?
What sound do I hate? Probably 5 o'clock traffic. I think that's probably it. There's nothing worse than getting stuck behind a car when all you want to be is home. You know, you've had a hard day. I just want to go home.
What is your favorite curse word?
Can we say that on this?
Well, we've had directors be very interesting with it. Creative.
You know, I don't know how creative I can get with it, because I think you can't go wrong with the overall utility of the word. It can be a verb, it can be a noun, it can be an adjective, it can be maybe not an adverb, but I'm sure if you got really clever with it, you could figure out a way to sort of, I don't know, but it's but I think it's just one of those words that, first of all, the F and the hard K sound just is so powerful, and really, you know, when you're angry, there's nothing like just shouting that out to just make a point.
Very good. So what profession, other than yours, would you like to attempt?
What profession other than mine would I like to attempt? You know, when I was a kid, I always thought that what I wanted to be was a doctor. In fact, I remember being about 7 and my mom asking me what I wanted to be. And of course, at 7, you're thinking paycheck. So I go, doctor, lawyer, whatever it takes. I think those are my exact words, a precocious 7-year-old. But as I have studied some law, I really find the rules and the reasoning behind policies to be really fascinating. And in fact, right now I'm getting a second master's in education, and I'm taking a class in education law. And so learning about the liabilities and the reasons for some of the policies, the Common Core and the Child Left Behind, and of course privacy laws and that sort of thing. I didn't think it would be something that would just really fascinate me, but I find myself going above and beyond what I need to do when I'm studying because I'm just so interested in it. So probably lawyer, actually.
What profession would you not like to do?
Politician. I think that's a thankless job. I had a professor one time that said, the skills it takes to be a successful politician and the skills it takes to be elected are never the same and rarely encompassed by the same person. So I think I wouldn't even want to attempt to step into that pit of vipers.
Okay. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gate?
Well done. I'm proud of you.
Very good. Well, John, thank you so much. I'm going to open up and see if there's any questions in our audience today. Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't.
Okay, well, that's fair.
So we'll see if there's any question that we didn't ask and have answered. Anything at all?
Crickets. Oh, we got one back there.
Yes.
So I know that you enjoy acting as well as directing.
Yes.
What has been your favorite role as an actor?
Okay, so the question was, because I have to repeat it. So
okay, right, so you can hear it on the camera, right.
The question was, you like to be an actor as well, so what was one of your favorite roles that you have played as an
Favorite roles?
I read that you played Hamlet.
I did.
And you played Amadeus.
I did.
And you played Hedwig in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Now that would be one.
I did. Actually, that's probably the one that, if I had to pick one, that's probably the one that I had the most fun with. Because I mean, when you get to be a drag queen rock star,
right?
How often does that get to happen in life? And I'm bald with a beard. I mean, who would think? But that was a character that was so unlike me, and in fact, that was the last musical I did. I did that about 10 years ago. I haven't been in a musical since then. So that was sort of my musical send-off, I guess, to my when I turned 30 is right about when I did that show. And I was fortunate enough to actually go back to New York and see it with Neil Patrick Harris, and it was just exciting to sort of revisit all that music and revisit that character through somebody else's interpretation. But man, that was a role where you talk to the audience, you deal with the audience, you sing directly to the audience. Sometimes you're sitting in the audience's lap, literally, and the connection that you have with that audience, I think, was unlike just about anything else I've ever played. And I mean, every night I just was so excited to get to the theater to perform. And sometimes there are those days when you're going, I've just had a bad day, I'm tired, I don't know if I can do this. Never with that show. With that show, I was always on fire and ready to roll.
And I have 2 questions. The first one is, if you could go back in time, what time period would you have liked to live in? And the second question is, if you could meet anybody, as far as like in the biblical stage or past or present, who would the 3 people you would like to meet?
3 people.
Interesting. So the first question was, if you could go back in time, what time period would you travel to? And then the second question is, if you could go back in time, or at anything, what 3 people across the span of history would you like to have met?
Well, if I could go back in time to visit and could come back, I'd probably pick the Elizabethan period, because I'm just really fascinated with that time period. It was a time when language was just exploding all over the place, and or the Italian Renaissance. You know, seeing these ideas just being created all over. I don't think I'd want to live there. You know, no deodorant, no internet, no cell phones, nothing. But if I had to live in a time period, probably the 20s, I think. I think that period between the wars, right after World War I, when we're getting our feet back, and right before World War II, when everything went to hell again, was just a time in America that was just it seemed classy, and there was almost an American Renaissance, and some of the Harlem Renaissance, in fact, was starting about that time, and stuff that was going on in film and theater was just really, really exciting. I guess the artsy time periods are the ones that really appealed to me. And the second one was what three
people would you like to meet across the span of time?
Well, I mean, William Shakespeare would be one. I guess everyone probably says Jesus too, but I think there's something about hearing something from a spiritual person's mouth, and that is just riveting. And in fact, I was raised Lutheran, and for a number of years, I went to a small Lutheran church not too far from where my parents live in Lakeland, Tennessee, and there was a pastor there who was just. He was one of those people you meet and you're like, this is a holy man. This is a man who has it together. He walks the walk and talks the talk, and he is that way all the way to the core. And while there are a lot of people who have strong spiritual beliefs, he was one that I really felt that was his whole being, and I think that's a rarity. So to find people, someone else that would be like that would be really fascinating to talk to, and of course to find the one to talk to about that, I think, is to sit and have dinner with Jesus Christ. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Third person? Goodness, I got to think about that for a minute. Of course, I'm drawing complete blanks. Maybe. I have a favorite author I like who he's still alive, of course, lives in Vienna. His name is Jonathan Carroll, and he writes a lot of sort of magical realism. But he has this way of turning a phrase in his books. All of his books begin with these really fantastic first lines. One of my favorites of his is a book called Bones in the Moon. And the first line is, "The axe boy lived downstairs." And immediately you read that and you're like, I got to read the rest of the book. I mean, it's just the way it is. So I think having those three men at my dinner table would be fascinating conversation. So that's probably the three I would choose.
Those are great.
Yeah.
So to close us out, John, give us a sound bite encouraging people to come see All My Sons, or one little snippet to leave us with. Just give us a solid sound bite that we can steal and use for public relations.
Sure, of course. Well, come see the show. It will be definitely worth your time. I mean, you're going to see some amazing, amazing performances from some of the finest actors in Memphis on one of the finest stages in Memphis. So, your money will be well spent coming to see this great American play.
Again, All My Sons opens March 6th here at the Germantown Community Theater in Germantown, Tennessee. We hope to see everyone there, and thank you so much.